Will you be voting early or vote by mail? I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. It is Springfield's Morning News. Again, you can call in live and local at 217-629-7970. Other ways to get a hold of me, you can email bishoponair@gmail.com, or you can Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, message me that way. Bishop on Air, just search it out. Pretty easy to find. But I want to hear from you as to whether you're going to vote early or vote by mail, because both of those things are going to start up Thursday. You can actually go vote in person, and local elections officials are going to start sending out mail-in ballots that were requested. Now, 7:12, I'm Greg Bishop with Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Last week, I talked with the Illinois State Board of Elections spokesman Matt Dietrich about early voting and mail-in balloting and a few other things. We're actually going to unpack that conversation several ways throughout the rest of the week. But I want to hear from you. Again, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. Are you going to vote early or vote by mail? So I want to hear from you. But first, let's see what Matt Dietrich had to say. Again, from the Illinois State Board of Elections, and he kind of gave us a bit of an overview of what's happening starting Thursday in Illinois when it comes to the November 8th election.
Now, there's sort of two levels of early voting in Illinois, and the first begins 40 days before every election, and that's in the office of the county clerk. And then really it kicks into high gear 2 weeks before the election on October 24th this year. That's when you'll see the extended hours, you'll see weekend hours. In a lot of jurisdictions, they'll offer early voting in places other than the county clerk's office. And certainly in Cook County and Chicago, October 24th is the big day when it really expands out into the municipalities of Cook County and also out into the early voting sites throughout Chicago.
So again, early voting is going to start on Thursday, and we'll also hear a little bit more about mail-in balloting from Matt Dietrich from the Illinois State Board of Elections. But let's get your phone calls as they come in. Good morning. You're on WMAY. Are you going to vote early or vote by mail?
Good morning. I'm probably going to vote early by mail, and let me explain. I used to, for the past couple of years, I'd go in and vote within the first few days of early voting, and now I've signed up for the vote by mail because last voting cycle I was out of town during the voting, so it was good to vote early. But now I return the vote by mail just for the option to be able to vote by mail. It doesn't mean I have to. I could still walk in and vote, or I could vote and walk it down to the box. So it gives me more options with the vote by mail. So that's the reason I did it. So I can do it. It gives me a bigger window to vote. So
yeah, and to make sure you get it done too, because you never know. Right. Election day, you could be sick. Election day, you could have a jam-packed schedule and you just can't make it to the polls, whatever the case may be, or you might be out of town, like you said.
So yeah, I'll probably try the vote by mail this time just to try it. But yeah, I did it mainly for the option. It opens up the window. Yeah. So, and you're not stuck with it. So it's not like you're stuck voting by mail every time.
No, and that's something Matt Dietrich lays out here when we talk about mail-in voting. Appreciate the call here with Springfield's Morning News at 217-629-7970. Again, sharing a bit of a conversation I had with Matt Dietrich, the Illinois State Board of Elections spokesman. And I want to hear from you. Are you planning on voting early or voting by mail? Thursday's the day that early voting starts at your local election authority. But local election authorities are also Thursday going to start sending out those mail-in ballots. Again, here's Matt Dietrich.
Well, Illinois voters by now have probably received a notice from their local election authority informing them that if they want, they can sign up to be on a permanent vote-by-mail list. And what that means is you have a standing application for all elections here going forward. You will always receive a vote-by-mail ballot as long as you continue to be registered as an active voter in that jurisdiction, which they will check before they send anything out. Now, one question that comes up quite a bit from voters is, what do I do if I have requested a vote by mail ballot or I've signed up to be on the permanent vote by mail list, but I change my mind and I'd rather go in and vote in person. And if that happens, what you would want to do is take your vote by mail ballot, take it to your polling place or your early voting location, and surrender it to an election judge. You'll then, they'll spoil that ballot. They'll give you a regular in-person ballot, and you can vote in person. If you have requested a vote by mail ballot, but it hasn't arrived, and maybe you're getting nervous because election day is approaching, or you just want to get done, plans change, you want to go ahead and vote in person, you can go to your polling place or your early voting location, and you'll sign an affidavit that says, I have requested a ballot, I haven't received it yet, but I'm opting to vote in person instead. Then you can go ahead and vote in person. You'll be instructed that if that vote by mail ballot arrives, you are to destroy it. And absolutely under no circumstances will you vote it and send it back in. That can be a big problem, even if it's inadvertent. So that comes up quite a bit. If I had a question earlier this week, a voter called and asked am I giving up my right to vote in person if I sign up for this vote by mail, the permanent vote by mail list? And absolutely not. You can still vote in person. You just have to make sure if you've received your vote by mail ballot, take it in and surrender it. Or if you change your mind and you haven't received it yet, go in, sign the affidavit, you can vote in person, and then your vote by mail ballot is going to be voided if it arrives, and you'll need to destroy it.
So again, that's Matt Dietrich. He's the spokesman for the Illinois State Board of Elections, and a conversation I had about what's starting Thursday with early voting and mail-in balloting being sent out. But I'm asking you as well at 217-629-7970. Are you going to vote early or vote by mail? Good morning.
I'm not gonna. I won't go to the poll simply because I have to work that day.
And you work for the state, so it's a holiday for you?
It's a state holiday for me, but I have to work that day. I'm an election judge.
Oh well, okay. So yeah, you're still working, and so when that happens, when you're an election judge, do you get like a break to go vote yourself?
Yeah, if there's a lull, I can go and vote then, or actually, I can vote before we close the machines.
Gotcha.
And get my vote in at that time.
Well, thank you for doing that. We need more election judges. We need more people with eyes on what happens election day. So, yeah, good to hear that you're going to vote in person day of because, well, you're going to be working. So it makes a lot of sense. Appreciate the call on that. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Again, asking you if you plan on voting early or if you are going to vote by mail, because vote by mail, those are going to be sent out Thursday, and election early voting for the November 8th election begins on Thursday as well. But what about people who are in jail awaiting trial? Are they able to vote? Again, here's Matt Dietrich from the Illinois State Board of Elections.
If someone is incarcerated in a county jail and they are awaiting trial, they haven't been convicted, they're not serving a sentence, then they're entitled to vote. Generally, they would vote by mail if they are in a county jail that's outside of their county of residence, and they also have the opportunity to vote if they're in their home county, to vote there in the jail if that's offered. Cook County is required to set up its own polling place in its county jail.
So just another little tidbit of information for you heading into the November 8th election. Again, we'll hear some more from Matt Dietrich later on this week, and in particular, the impact on the vote outcome election night, November 8th. Are we actually going to know a final tally, or are we going to have to wait 2 weeks in order to get that finality. So we'll talk about that later on this week, and I'll share more from Matt Dietrich from the Illinois State Board of Elections. Thanks so much for chiming in here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's